Good morning. Did you had a good night?
Yes, I had a great night.
You
yeah.
had a screening yesterday evening, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How did it go? Were the reactions as other screenings, or is it every time different?
It was good. This Free Fire the reactions have been quite warm wherever we've gone, so which is good. You know, it's a rare one for us because usually the films I make, the people come out all upset
Well,
and depressed, but this time they came out all happy and clapping. So that's
yeah,
good.
you managed to have a good balance between sometimes you get a bit upset, but then
Yeah, it's drama, isn't it? It's supposed
yeah.
to be up and down. You can't just be like.
I heard I saw an interview with you at your premiere, and there you said that violence for you is something beautiful.
Did I?
Yeah,
I
you
don't remember
did.
saying that. That sounds highly unlikely.
I assume
Was that
violence in films, not in
Yeah,
daily
exactly. Was that
life.
lost in translation? That sounds like a very bold statement.
Is it?
That sounds like somebody that would come back to haunt me if I'd said it.
But in films, do you consider it something
I enjoy
beautiful?
watching violent films. Yeah.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. I've always been a fan of genre stuff, and I think it depends how you take it. I think the basic discussion about whether violence in cinema is an issue or not is closed. That's like rock and roll being a problem for the youth. I think it's over. It's not even talk about it because it's like, when you look at the world and what's happening in the world, it's not been caused by films with violence in it, or video games, or rock and roll, or rap music. So. But yeah, I think it depends how you look at movies. I mean, I always think of them as that violence is an extension of drama and is a metaphor for the drama within the film. So it's much more interesting to watch people jumping about and fighting than it is to watch people weeping and crying. That's me.
It is. It is. You worked with Scorsese and Emma Tillinger as executive producers for
Yeah.
the film. I think that must be amazing. How did the collaboration started?
Well, he started when he was making Hugo and he made that in Britain, which was the 3D film he made for the kids' film, and when he was there, he'd asked his people to kind of get him some British films to see, so local filmmakers. So he'd seen like the Joanna Hoggs movies, and he'd seen he'd seen Fish Tank and stuff like that, and then he saw Kill List, and then he got interviewed about it, and he mentioned it, and I was like, I read it in the newspaper. I was like, oh Jesus, Scorsese's watched Kill List. That's really bizarre. So I kind of talked to my agent, my American agent, who is in the same company that Scorsese's agent is. And I said to him, look, if you can do anything for me, I don't mind, it'd be great to direct Star Wars 16 or something like that, but it'd be really good to meet Scorsese. It'd be much more interesting for me to meet Scorsese. So they went and they sorted it out, and by that point he'd seen Sightseers as well, and he really liked it. And I met him in New York and had a chat with him, and it was just like, I'm a film fan, and I wouldn't have got into film, I don't think, if I hadn't seen Taxi Driver when I was a kid, and it was just incredible, to meet him. But it's weird even just to meet someone that you've read books about or paid exorbitant amounts of money for big books with pictures in, and then you meet the person that they're about is really incredible. And then I was just chatting to him, and like it's a very one-sided conversation because obviously he knows all about the history of cinema and has lived through it, and I only know it through reading about it. So every time I'd say something, I think, oh God, he lived through this, and I've just read it on the internet or something. This is really, really one-sided and awful. And but I was talking to him, and I looked at him, and I thought, oh, he was in Kurosawa's Dreams, playing Van Gogh. That's a bad place to mispronounce that. And I thought, geez, he knows Kurosawa. And then I went, oh my God, he knows everyone. Anyway, it's been brilliant.
And what have you learned something from him for your directing?
I think that from the experience of working with him on Free Fire, or just in general, because in general I've learned everything. Obviously.
Now, from this experience in Free Fire.
I think it specifically. I mean, he's just incredibly generous, in terms of his and how he treats you, and I think that's the thing I've taken away from it. I think that he's got a passion for cinema that's beyond any kind of rivalry or like petty stuff. You know, it's kind of so he's just excited about anything that's exploring the cinematic form. So I think that taking that and then moving forward with that attitude rather than a slightly my normal, kind of jealous, kind of slightly.
You matured.
Yeah, well, not much to be fair, but yeah, a tiny bit. Yeah.
Then you cut your hair and
Exactly, I'm
you
trying to
bend.
look like a human, you know.
Where did the first idea for the film come from?
It had come from the films. They usually come from a lot of different places. It had come a bit from meeting Cillian Murphy, and he'd talked to my agent and said, "Oh, you'd like to meet up because you like Kill List." And I'm always really excited when actors actually reach out. You know, it's great. And so I had a drink with him, and we got on all right. And he kind of went, "If you ever have a project that I might be good for, just keep in touch." And then I just went home and wrote 3-5 so he could be in it. And then so there was that, and then there was just a general feeling I wanted to make for a long time. Wanted to make an action movie that was a bit more kind of a bit smaller than. The stakes were smaller than most action than modern action movies.
What do you mean with the stakes?
Well, because like I've been watching a lot of movies where I felt that everything had got out of hand and it had got too big, and like it's all this stuff with planets blowing up and CG stuff and cities exploding, and they do it they seem to be doing it in every movie, and the characters in the films never were bothered about all the people who got killed in the building that fell down. They just go, "Oh, it's just a big thing that exploded," so they're not bothered by it, and I wondered why I wasn't as engaged with those movies as I was with something like Assault on Precinct 13, the Carpenter film, where one of the big action sequences is like 2 men and 2 women hiding under a table. As the windows get shot out, and that goes on for ages, and that's just a brilliant. You're like, oh my god, it's full of tension, but why is that good? Why is that better than seeing a whole city blow up and like a big monster and all this stuff? And I thought, well, it's probably because it's more relatable, and then that was the seeds for Free Fire, really. I wanted to make a film that was about very small decisions getting out of hand really, really, really fast.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant move, because the entire film is in this amazing warehouse. And did you search for a lot of warehouses to find this one?
It was really lucky in many ways. I mean, I obviously I had an idea of what the warehouse should look like with this like offices above and stairs and stuff. And then we built it in Minecraft first in 3D and kind of and then walked around it in virtually just to see if all the sight lines and eye lines for everybody were right. And then we sent people out to look for a warehouse and looked all over the UK for it. And then the one we found was within 5 minutes from my house, which was
very convenient.
It was really convenient. And it had all that stuff. It had the stairs and it had the offices, so it was great. I mean, the actual real warehouse was clean, and it had to be like pristine, because you can't. The initial thing, we were a bit naive and we thought, oh, you need somewhere that was ruined to shoot in, but you can't put actors in that situation because they'll get hurt, and you just don't know what's in the rubble, like glass and asbestos and all this kind of stuff. So you then have to bring all the stuff in, and that rubble's special acting rubble, so it's like rubbery and it doesn't hurt them as much. Which ruins the film, obviously, but yeah.
And is it, because I was wondering, because it feels like this big choreography, but is it like that during writing? How does it work? Do you also, I think it's maybe easier to write a dialogue than these scenes where people move a lot around and they crawl over the floor.
I think it's a bit of both. I think dialogue is incredibly hard to write, and but it's more like a hybrid film that's half drama and half like Warner Brothers cartoon. So it's based around gags and jokes and setups and payoffs. So if you've got action, instead of it just being like a load of people, you see it in movies where it's just like a shot. You get these things of people firing guns, and then people falling out, and that goes on forever, in these things. But I knew that would get tired really quickly, so it had to be like every couple of beats, someone had to do something specific, and those sets of dramatic challenges have to build up to crescendos and down again and up again. But it's like literally like Tom and Jerry, So when he's hitting them with a frying pan, and then someone else, and then the bowling balls drop on their head and all that stuff, and it's all built. It like music up and down, Otherwise, it becomes relentless.
And you practice it in Minecraft.
Yeah, to start with, and then it was storyboarded, and then it was built in the set with cardboard boxes, and then we looked at it all and walked around the set, and then we did loads and loads of maps, so to see where all the characters were at any given time, because a mistake made in the first few weeks of shooting might not be seen until week 6. And then you're screwed because it's all shot in order as well. So I was really conscious of that. So we were very careful about where people end up and what they can see from each position. Otherwise, you could find that you'd made a mistake and you're thinking, oh, this character now looks at, oh, he's not there, or he was over there. Oh shit! And then it's like, oh, what are we going to do? So that it's really boring to talk about, but it's kind of it was a massive worry at the time.
How long did it take you before you got to the actual shooting?
Oh, it's about 7 weeks of prep, but I'd done other things, like bought models of the vehicles and built the model kits, and then, which is indulgent for me, but and then I had toy soldiers, and then we built models of the set as well, so, and to try the different lighting things out. So there was a lot of thinking about it before we did it. I got asked a question the other day, is like, oh, did you just get the actors together and then they just fired guns at each other in the space? And you're like, I think there's a perception about film that it's like the actors just make it up on the spot.
Yeah,
but that
good luck, guys.
Yeah, well, that would result in a lot of legal problems and hurt actors, if you did that.
And how long was the shooting itself?
6 weeks.
6 weeks?
Yeah, 6 day weeks. 6 day weeks,
yeah. So every day, everybody went to the warehouse, and then you were there for the entire day?
Yeah. I mean, and they had I think they had 8 sets of clothes each, which were all in different grades of dirt and thing. And then the beginning of the day, everyone would get in, they'd have a coffee, and they'd stand there, and then they'd all lie on the ground and roll around. And all the crew would just be going, oh God, and they just get dirty again, and then they go off to their positions. But it was because it's effectively only about 3 scenes, the whole film, So, and in every shot, pretty much everybody's in it. So they have to all be there the whole time, which was complicated.
Yeah, I thought I saw a clip of you at the premiere with everybody, and it felt like a very good, vibrant crew. You had a lot of fun, I think.
We always do, though. I mean, I'm still in contact with everyone from all the films, I mean, and that's part of the process, really, is making sure, for actors especially, that it's like there's an environment that's fun, that they can experiment in without feeling embarrassed, because it's essentially a silly profession for all of us, not just actors, for filmmakers as well. If you step back from it, it's professional pretending is nuts, So you need to make sure that everyone feels that what they're doing is appreciated, And I think that's because I don't do tons of direction on set. It's not lots of...
What is direction?
Well, it's like talking to people and going, this is your character. You remember when you were 6 years old and this terrible thing happened to you, and this is why you're doing this, and that kind of over talking thing. And I think that that a lot of that, the motivations for all these characters are, all their relationships are built out of casting. Making sure that's right, and you've got the right people for it, and then Amy Jump will rewrite the parts to the actors. And certainly on this film, she was rewriting every day, because there was improvisation, and then we wanted to get as much of that improvisation into the film without breaking the film. So whenever someone improvised a bit, then she would rejig the whole script to make that bit fit. From the dialogue end, the action end couldn't change because of, like I was saying before, but certainly there's bits of characterization that came in through improvisation that needed to be adjusted across the whole movie.
And you have written together earlier, of course, and you are married as well. Is it when did you find out, hey, this is something we can do together, it works?
Yeah, I mean, from the early days of it, really, from Down Terrace. I mean, we'd written stuff before in the past, and I think but it was part of this thing of, film can be nomadic, and you can end up not being at home much, and you can miss your kids growing up and the whole 9 yards and be away and think that's. And I wanted to avoid us not being together, and so we'd kind of engineered the whole thing so that we would work together more, and that's kind of how it's come out. But she also co-owns Rook Films, which is the producer of all the films except for High Rise. So we're all tied together. Amy and I are tied together creatively, but also with Andy, the Andy Stark producer. We're all, it's a solid unit that does all these movies, and all the films have had this, very similar crew, often repeating actors as well. So it's kind of it's very much like a cottage industry type thing. So.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe also why actors, because that's what I read in interviews, I want to work with you because they feel this kind of family vibe on set as well.
I think it's that I think High Rise made a massive difference to it all. That a lot of the people on High Rise went back because High Rise was like a massive ensemble cast, so we had a lot of actors in it, and they all kind of went back to their agents and said they enjoyed themselves. And the more I worked, the more I realised that it's a very rare thing. So they kind of, people. It's rare for people to come away from a set going, "Oh, I actually enjoyed that." It's more usually a bit of a grind, I hear. So I think that made a big difference.
And so do you encourage actors to reach out to you if they want to work with you or have plans?
Yeah, well, I don't have a platform to do that,
Be careful what you wish for.
Well, exactly. But I think, the people have reached out in the past, which has been great. It really helps.
And last year you were here with High Rise, of course, and I interviewed you.
Yeah.
And so it's quite a fast pace you're at, one film a year.
Yeah, it's been a weird one. High Rise and Free Fire Cat were back to back, effectively. I think we delivered High Rise, the DCP, the final print of High Rise, one day, and the next day I was in pre-production for Free Fire. But I don't think that's going to happen for a while. I mean, we've already had a year since we finished Free Fire, which we haven't been in production, so there'll be a gap of like 2 or maybe 2.5 years now, because the next film we'll make is probably is complicated, so it'll take there's a lot of post-production to do on it.
Okay, so I won't see you next year, maybe?
No, probably not, unless though I've sneakily insinuated myself onto the credits of some other film as an exec producer or something.
Do that.
Yeah, and I can come and drink gin and tonics and pretend that I've had something more to do with the movie except for watch it.
I'm looking forward to that moment. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, no,
thanks.
cool.
Good
Nice
luck.
to be back. Cool.